What's up, 2025, number nine, number one channel in spiritual and intellectual honesty. Back at it again, back at it again. Today I want to talk about a particular subject, right? What's going on with Trump. So, I believe, in my opinion, from what I've seen, that Trump and or his administration violated spiritual principles. This is why they're going through all the turmoil and everything as far as his legacy. That's why everything is going south. Now, a person might say, well, everything, that's all because of the Epstein files, right? But no, that's just a symptom. So I'm going to go into the principle that he violated. And also at the end of the video, right, towards the end, I'm going to talk about what not to do, how not to, the lesson learned, and how not to violate these principles. So we have to go back in time, 9 months ago, September 29th, 2024. On this particular day, on the Trump, on his Facebook, and on his Twitter, his X, he posted a particular prayer to Saint Michael on this particular day. Now we got to get into this whole day in Saint Michael, right? So this particular day is to venerate Saint Michael, who is venerated as a saint, but who is known and is an archangel. So this particular day, on the 29th of September, is a day where archangels, saints, and in particular, Saint Michael can be venerated. So one thing we have to understand with President Trump and his social media accounts, right? We know that he doesn't handle his own social media accounts. He has other people handle it for him. So this is significant. So this is part of the lesson. So the person who posted this, they were responsible for his account. So here's the thing, and this is what we have to learn, what people have to understand. Prayer is a science. It's a science in prayer. And we have to be careful as far as knowing what entity we're praying to, what's their personality, their archetypal anthropomorphic personality, and what's their taboos. So Saint Michael is a warrior angel. Saint Michael's job is to whoop ass and not take names, because whooping ass is what he do. So Saint Michael is an angel for justice, protecting the weak, fighting against evil, destroyer of demons. So this is Saint Michael's job. This particular energy is very, very potent and very, very strong. Okay? So Saint Michael, on this particular day, they said this particular prayer. Now, this particular prayer is 140 years old, and it was canonized by Leo the 13th. This is somewhat significant, right? Not Leo the 14th, who's the Pope today, but Leo the 13th. So this prayer has been said by millions and millions and millions of people, right? This particular prayer. So briefly explaining prayer, right? Prayer is not necessarily asking you for a particular entity, right, to come down from heaven, or if it's a demon, come from hell to necessarily help you, right? But prayer can be a sanctuary for a person, where a person needs to go if they're going to any particular turmoil or trouble. So this particular reservoir of energy, right, that's been built over for 140 years, people go to this energy, right, to get relief from St. Michael. And it works just the same as the Lord's Prayer. The Lord's Prayer, which is a 2,000-year-old prayer, people go to that for comfort. Also, too, prayer isn't just, prayer is just asking for answers. So when a person prays, right, it's not necessarily, right, as the quote, Jules from Pulp Fiction, God comes down from heaven and stops the motherfucking bullets, right? But prayer also where you get an answer to something that you need to answer, a longer question, right? If something's bothering you, something that you need, you can get an answer where to go and what to do from putting that out in the universe to that particular entity. So I have the most, to say that. So what happened was, see, St. Michael is the archangel against corruption. So when they said that particular prayer, you can't have a whole bunch of corruption going on. So in a way, this person kind of jinxed him by doing that, by putting that prayer there. Because, and it's not just Trump, right? We know that it's a certain amount of corruption that goes on with all presidents, right? This goes without saying. If you for Trump or not, this is all presidents have a certain amount of corruption. But I'm gonna go to the where I think everything went south for them. So when Elon Musk, jinky ass, right, was in office with them, and Elon Musk had no business being in office, especially this year. For those who know, his jinky ass wasn't supposed to be there. So he's indirectly kind of involved in this too, right? So when Elon Musk, according to like the few last days when he was in office, we all saw it, him talking to the president, standing up, folding his arms, right? But a few days before that, right, he was, they had a meeting with the president of South Africa. And you saw Elon Musk with, whoever was there, the parliament, whatever, all these other government officials, right? But you saw him looking crazy, frowned up, looking evil, like the president of South Africa did something to him. Now, for those who don't know, South Africa has, they have this thing where they're talking about that they're being persecuted, the white farmers over there, they're being persecuted. The black South Africans are taking their farms and killing them, right? Which is all lies, complete cap, all lies. There's no evidence of this. There's not one funeral procession filmed on this. It's all just propaganda. They can't show one death certificate, nothing. It's all propaganda, it's all lies. So do your research and you'll find out too. So a few days before, just for what I remember, right? A few days before, a week or something like that, before he got kicked out, Elon Musk got kicked out, he sent for his people, right, which is about 60 people, he said that they're refugees, they're being persecuted, to come on over. And Trump, and we all know kind of like Trump personality, Trump didn't give a fuck if it was real or not. He looked at Elon Musk where he gave him all this money, where Elon Musk gave him the money, whatever. He's asking for a favor, so he's going to do it, right? So he sent the people over there. He browbeat The president of South Africa, you know what I'm saying, show his power. That's what Trump does. Not to justify, but it is what it is, right? So anyway, right, so those people came over. So we all know the thing with the ICE, right? ICE and all the stuff that's going over with them. So it really, okay, so the way St. Michael works, St. Michael is like direct. He's very masculine energy, right? It's almost like, when people who understand, who then dealt with archangels, know that they're kind of robotic and almost like their energy is kind of fixed. You see what I'm saying? They're different from dealing with other entities, right? They just go direct into the problem, especially St. Michael. St. Michael goes directly for the kill. So you have to be careful when you're dealing with him, because if you're not right, things can go south, right? You got to understand that. So what happened was, so the whole thing with that, he sent the people over there, lied and talking about they were refugees. And shortly after, that's when Elon Musk quit, all this other stuff. He quitted and he got fired and everything, and they had their little argument and stuff like that. And it seemed like from then, everything went south because of this particular corruption, because the saints, right, protect the widows and the orphans, and the disenfranchised, which could be immigrants, right? So we have to understand, right, it wasn't a violation with the whole thing he was doing with ICE, because it has to be law and order, right? It has to be protecting the border. I'm just talking about according to St. Michael, how he operates, right? So he's saying, okay, well, there has to be law and order, but when there's corruption. Now, the key meaning of corruption is where a person is doing something wrong, where they're speaking against something wrong, but they're not doing it themselves. That's corruption. And that's what St. Michael fought against. So that person had no reason to put that prayer into his account. So this is how this works, right? I'm gonna just show you how spirituality kind of, like, things kind of connect, right? Whoever put that, if it was a man or woman who put that in there, right? We like I said, we understand that Trump he's not over his own social media account. He doesn't look at it. He puts a person over that shit. And if they fuck up whatever, he just fire him. But this is different. So either what happened was they got his permission to do the St. Michael prayer, or they just up and did it. So the fact either way that Donald Trump gave permission to do this particular prayer, he gave permission to do this particular prayer, you know what I'm saying, either directly or indirectly. So when they said that prayer on that particular day of St. Michael, that shit was activated. It was activated. There's been one. So St. Michael was going to protect him. Now, the person had good intentions, right? Because we all know the little mishaps that happened as far as his safety, right? The couple little incidents, right? We ain't gonna have to say what it is, But yeah, so that person was probably concerned for his safety, so they said the prayer of St. Michael. However, so what they should have did was, instead of putting it on their, on his Facebook and Twitter, they should have put it on theirs and just said a prayer on their behalf to protect him. That would have been more appropriate, because you don't have people to speak for you spiritually who, you know what I'm saying, who aren't like professional, who aren't priests, who aren't specialists, without your consent. That's like, that's like a no-no, because mishaps like things can happen. You don't have them speak for you. Okay? It's very important. So when this happened, St. Michael got activated, and then when the corruption happened, things started to come apart, started to get sour. Now, I'm not saying St. Michael attacked Donald Trump. That's not what I'm saying. But when you make prayers and you connect to that particular energy, and that particular entity, you know, is working for you, and you break taboos and stuff like that, then things can go south. You know, so this is how we know that Donald Trump isn't an occultist, right? He has people who work for him. So a lot of people say, oh, like, you know, oh, Diddy, he was a occultist and all this, and he was, yeah, okay, well, he probably was in rituals and stuff like that, because in those rituals, it's debauchery, it's sex, it's drugs, you know, it's like a regular party. So, of course, they'll be involved, but as far as being a practicing occultist, no. Like in his building, right? The Trump Tower. People talk about, oh, he has esoteric numbers, and the way the builders build is from the occult. You think Donald Trump asked them to build that building like that, or he knows anything about the architecture? No, he just had people who probably his father dealt with, you know, and then, you know, it's like an agreement. You see what I'm saying? It's a difference between being a practice occultist and dealing with the occult. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, so look, that's what happened. Things went south, and this is why the whole thing with the Epstein situations, all this stuff is really crashing down and coming on him. You see what I'm saying? And then it's like he's not really getting around it, and the energy is just really just doubling down on him. You know what I'm saying? Like he can't get a break because that energy went south on him. So that's my take on it. You know what I'm saying? What do y'all think? Y'all think y'all think I'm correct? What is your opinion on it? But yeah, that's what it is. You feel me? So here's the whole thing with that too. We have to understand. So the St. Michael prayer, right? Pope Leo the 13th, he canonized that prayer. So does that mean that St. Michael is now his attack dog? No. It means that he attached the science of St. Michael. And this particular prayer is significant too, because the prayer, if you were to look it up, I might even put the prayer in my in the chat. But if you look at the prayer, it's like, you know, it's a short prayer, but the prayer is from a longer prayer, which is the actual exorcism. Like I say, St. Michael is the, you know, he has victory over demons. So that's, you know, this is a significant prayer. So St. Leo the 14th, when he took up that mantle, right, because St. the 13th, he grafted St. Michael onto the personificated name of Leo. So all Leos right now have to deal with St. Michael. You see what I'm saying? To a degree, from that personificated name. We learning the science of this. I'm breaking down the science of this. So Pope Leo the 14th, he has a certain sympathy, I believe, for immigrants from his ancestry. You know what I'm saying? He has Latin ancestry. And also, for him being in Latin America, living amongst the people, living amongst the poor, you know, being an Augustinian, living and being poor, because that's one of the vows of being an Augustinian. This is something that he actually had to do. So he has sympathy for that. So so Pope Leo the 14th doesn't like Donald Trump. He doesn't like, I'm not saying he doesn't like him, but he doesn't like what he's doing. So it makes sense, right? That's their prayer. He can call that energy against him as karmically, saying, okay, he's not doing what he's supposed to do. He's corrupt. He can call that energy upon him. You see what I'm saying? And this is not something that's really that deep. This is something that anybody could do, but they set up the science according to this. You feel me? So I'm not saying, because people are saying, okay, well, the Catholic Church is corrupt and this and that. Yeah, but you got to understand the science of metaphysics and the science of spirituality. It's not just all about black and white about that, right? It's about utilizing the different entities and what they do. And, making sure you don't break the taboos according, to what they don't like. So I'm gonna give you one more example before I go. So just say the example of Baphomet, right? A lot of us, we say, for like us black folks, we say, oh man, what's up with these black celebrities, man? They not doing nothing for the black community. They billionaires. They not doing this. Won't they come together? But we have to understand that Baphomet, which is over the entertainment, that's an entity that's over the entertainment field, right? That particular energy is a negative entity. So meaning that entity might give you blessings, but it's not going to do it in a positive energy, right? This energy is a lower energy. So it's like out your ego. So it's not like a person could petition Baphomet, and Baphomet, just say Baphomet gives them $1 billion. And they go, oh, okay, now I'm gonna help the community. I'm gonna help black folks. I'm gonna do this. No, that's not what that entity does. It's a very selfish, it's a very lower vibrational type entity. It doesn't work like that. You can't switch up. When the entity gives you something or does something for you, it's on their terms, not your terms, not your feelings, not your principles. You understand what I'm saying? So this is why that'll never work. It'll never happen as far as anybody really too much in the entertainment industry that's really connected to them like that, who's really into, with all them people. It ain't gonna happen. They're never going to build anything to come together, right? They can barely build from their families just the way for them families and for their children. That's how that energy works. You understand what I'm saying? So just to kind of just break this down to kind of get y'all to understand. So man, hit me up in the comments, man, what y'all think. You think he violated, you think St. Michael, tumbled the Trump administration? I think so, man. I think so. Talk to y'all later.